The profound symbolism of the scapegoat in Leviticus chapter 16. The ritual of the scapegoat, as outlined in the book of Leviticus, provides a fascinating glimpse into the intricate religious practices of the Israelites. While this specific practice seems unique to the Israelites, the broader concept of transferring sins or impurities onto living beings for ritualistic purposes has historical and cultural precedents in various ancient societies. In the ancient Near East, there were rituals that involved transferring impurity or sins to animals or objects as a means of purification. For instance, in Mesopotamian cultures, rituals involving the transfer of sins or maladies onto animals were not uncommon. These practices often aimed at cleansing individuals or communities from perceived impurities or transgressions. However, the detailed instructions for the Day of Atonement, including the casting of lots, the distinct roles assigned to the goats, and the ritualistic act of sending the scapegoat into the wilderness, appear to be unique to the religious practices outlined in the Mosaic Law for the Israelites. Let's delve deeper into the biblical example. Leviticus chapter 16 verses 7 to 10, Niv. 7. Then he is to take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. 8. He is to cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. 9. Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it for a sin offering. 10. But the goat chosen by lot as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the wilderness as a scapegoat. Here, we witness a meticulous process involving the selection of 2 goats, one designated for sacrifice and the other as the scapegoat. The casting of lots adds an element of divine guidance in the ritual. The sacrificed goat served as a sin offering, symbolizing atonement for the sins of the people. In contrast, the scapegoat bore the symbolic burden of the community's sins and was sent away into the wilderness, representing the separation of those sins from the people. While the specific ritual of the scapegoat may not have direct analogues in neighboring cultures, the broader theme of seeking purification and atonement through symbolic acts involving animals was not entirely unique to the Israelites. The profound significance of the scapegoat ritual lies in its representation of God's mercy, forgiveness, and the removal of sins from the community, setting it apart as a distinctive aspect of Israelite religious practices. Is this practice available in other part of the Bible? While the specific ritual of the scapegoat as outlined in Leviticus chapter 16 is unique to the Day of Atonement and is not replicated in identical form elsewhere in the Bible, the broader theme of atonement, sacrificial offerings, and the symbolism of cleansing from sins is present in various other parts of the Old and New Testaments. 1. Sacrificial system. Throughout the Old Testament, particularly in the books of Exodus, Numbers, and Leviticus, there is a detailed system of sacrificial offerings prescribed by God for the atonement of sins. These offerings, including burnt offerings, sin offerings, and guilt offerings, were central to the Israelite worship and highlighted the need for cleansing and reconciliation with God. 2. The Lamb of God in the New Testament. In the New Testament, the theme of sacrificial atonement reaches its fulfillment in the person of Jesus Christ. John the Baptist, in recognizing Jesus, refers to him as the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. John chapter 1 verse 29, Niv. This metaphorical representation echoes the sacrificial lamb used in the Old Testament for atonement. 3. Jesus as the ultimate atonement. The entire concept of Jesus' crucifixion and the shedding of his blood is deeply rooted in the idea of atonement for humanity's sins. The New Testament books, especially the letters written by Paul, e.g., Romans and Hebrews, emphasize how Jesus' sacrifice on the cross serves as the ultimate atonement, surpassing the need for repeated animal sacrifices. 4. Theological reflections. Throughout both the Old and New Testaments, there are theological reflections on the nature of atonement, forgiveness, and the cleansing of sins. Verses such as Isaiah chapter 53, which prophetically speaks of the suffering servant, and Hebrews chapter 9, which elaborates on Christ's role as the high priest offering himself as a sacrifice, contribute to the broader understanding of atonement. While the specific ritual of the scapegoat is a distinctive element of the Levitical system, the overarching theme of atonement and the need for a perfect sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins is woven throughout the biblical narrative. The ritual practices outlined in Leviticus find their ultimate fulfillment and resolution in the person and work of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. What did scholars say about the scapegoat? Scholarly interpretations of the scapegoat ritual in the Bible, particularly in Leviticus chapter 16, vary, and different scholars offer different perspectives on its meaning and significance. Here are some common scholarly viewpoints. Symbol of removal of sin. Many scholars see the scapegoat as a powerful symbol of the removal of sin from the community. The laying of hands on the goat and the subsequent sending away into the wilderness is viewed as a dramatic representation of the separation of the people from their sins. Ritual symbolism. The ritual of the scapegoat is often seen as a symbolic drama representing the transfer of guilt and impurity from the people to the goat. The act of sending the scapegoat away is interpreted as a symbolic act of cleansing and purifying the community. Dual symbolism of goats. The selection of two goats, one for sacrifice and one as the scapegoat, is seen by scholars as a dual symbol representing both the atoning sacrifice required for sin and the removal of sin from the community. The casting of lots to determine the fate of each goat is seen as an acknowledgement of divine guidance in the ritual. Community identity. Some scholars emphasize the communal aspect of the scapegoat ritual, suggesting that the entire community participated in the ritual through the laying on of hands and the subsequent observance of the goat's removal. This communal engagement underscores the shared responsibility for sin and the collective seeking of atonement. Preventing divine wrath. Scholars note that the Day of Atonement, including the scapegoat ritual, is positioned as a means to prevent divine wrath and to maintain the covenantal relationship between God and the people. The ritual serves as a mechanism for reconciliation and restoration. Typological interpretation. Some Christian scholars interpret the scapegoat ritual typologically, seeing it as a foreshadowing or type of Christ's redemptive work. They draw parallels between the scapegoat carrying away the sins of the people and Jesus Christ as the ultimate sacrifice for sin. It's important to note that interpretations of the scapegoat ritual can vary based on theological and cultural perspectives. While some scholars focus on the ritual's historical and cultural context within ancient Israelite worship, others may approach it from a theological or comparative religious studies standpoint. Additionally, interpretations may differ between Jewish and Christian scholars based on their respective religious traditions.